Hey guys, welcome back. Alright, let me get you caught up. I've been doing a lot of testing and now we gotta start filming. So, we've killed 3 power supplies in the development of our 17 volt system. So here's our first victim. This is actually a bench supply, 50 amps, pretty nice. I don't know, hopefully we can repair it, but she's dead. Then we swapped to a real 12 volt battery, a big one. And here's our boost converters. This one's dead. This one is alive and we'll see what happens, and this one's dead as well. So what we did, we hooked all 3 of these up. I don't have them all hooked up now because 2 are dead, but I built this load balancing circuit. We hooked it up, and basically when I flip the switch, all the supplies turn on, and I had this inductive load hooked up to the output, so it would spin the fans up and run them at 17 volts. Well, first time I turned it on, we blew all the fuses in one of these, but what we really did was we blew it up and it blew the fuses. But it stayed running on these other 2. So I was like, okay, well it does run, and the load balancing worked. I checked that. So I was like, okay, some promise. Next time I turned it on, it killed another one of these. Well, actually, the next time I turned it on, I did it by itself, just to be safe, but it killed it. And then we stopped. We thought about it. We actually thought before we did this, like, hey, I wonder if flyback will damage the output of this. But in my head, I thought, no, I'm not really sure. So now, I've got a flyback diode. So, just for anybody who cares, when you run an inductive load like a solenoid or an AC clutch or, you know, like a VVT solenoid, a cooling fan, anything like that, anything that's got a coil of wire, it's an inductive load. It has reactance, and essentially the magnetic field that's being stored up, like in this case it's in the motor to make it spin, you know, creates a rotating magnetic field. When you turn the power off, that magnetic field collapses, and essentially as the current in the wire goes to 0 because you just unhooked it, the voltage tries to go to infinity. And when that voltage goes up, it sparks. It's actually how ignition coils work as well. Ignition coils don't spark when you turn them on, they spark when you try to turn them off. Alright, so knowing that, it's possible somehow that that was happening to this and causing super high voltage spikes. If that were happening, what would we expect to fail? Well, I don't actually know exactly how these work, but there's a gigantic transistor in there, and I know that one is the switch on the boost. And my guess is that if it really did fail, it would kill that transistor. Well, that's the one that died on both of these. I've already checked. This one, I pulled the transistor off the board. It's all disassembled. You can see parts rolling around in here. That one definitely had a bad transistor. This one does too. I just haven't taken it off because it's still assembled, but it's sandwiched in there. So I was like, okay, killed 2 of those. Maybe it is flyback. So we got a flyback one hooked up. This is our one good supply. So I guess I'll do it on camera. But we're basically going to turn this sucker on. And if it pops in 1 second, at least we're consistent. If it keeps working and it survives a lot of power cycles, perhaps that was the solution. So anyway, let's see what happens. I'll even get you guys up on the fuses because this is what failed last time when the transistor died. These fuses died as well. So there we go. We'll turn this on, see what happens. Okay, so I heard both a loud spark and it kept working. Oh! Oh dear. Okay, fans just quit turning. Did not blow the fuses. Look at our diode. It got destroyed. That's interesting. Okay, well, food for thought. I don't understand this, but that diode, looks like we sacrificed the diode for the greater good. The supply was still running after the fans turned on. I'm about to review the footage. That's interesting. But yeah, that completely exploded. I've never actually seen a diode explode like that. Wow. Huh. How about that? Dang, I wish I would focus. That'd be cool. Let's take a look at this. Oh, there's part of it. Well, that's not what I expected. So what does this mean? Now I'm pretty sure I had the diode hooked up correctly. Here's the band. This should have been hooked to the positive wire, which it is. If we turn this, you can see out positive. It's this wire. So we had that correct. Polarity was good. And basically that does blocking, but it completely fried. Huh. Well, the plot thickens. I don't know why that happened. But I guess we're going to go look at some schematics and see if we can understand why that would literally explode. But it didn't kill this. This was still running. The fan was actually still running when I shut it off, and we did not blow the fuses. May have hurt it, but we didn't kill it. Interesting. Okay, well, now we've blown up 3 supplies on a diode, but I'll take that over 4 supplies. Alright guys, I'll bring you back in a bit. I'm going to go stare at some schematics, see if I can deduce why what just happened did happen. Okay, so, bit of an update. I probably should have checked this. So, I actually got this diode from work. At work we use a couple different types of diodes. We got rectifier diodes, and we have clamp diodes. Clamp ones are basically like a Zener diode, or a TVS diode. But I needed rectifiers, and I asked for a rectifier diode, but apparently they accidentally gave me a Zener. So I typed in the part number. This is probably not the exact part, but it's pretty close. But anyway, this falls into the category of Zener diode. So you can see it's got a reverse standoff voltage of 5 volts and a maximum clamping voltage at 7.5 volts. So basically this diode, the way it was wired up, would have done nothing until it actually would have worked as intended up until the fan started to spin up a little bit. And as the back EMF came up, well, essentially the supply voltage as well, because the boost converter, the voltage, I don't have like a graph, but like if this was 0 and this was operating voltage, because it's a boost converter, over time it would build up and then level off and just hold voltage as the fan spins up. Well, as it was coming up, once it gets to like 5 or 6 volts, that's when this diode would have begun conducting. Oops, wrong diode. But because of that, it would have tried to hold the boost converter back. So essentially it's like, you know, 1v1 diode versus 22 amp boost converter. Well, this thing's only rated for like not very much. That's a peak pulse for like a millisecond. This thing, power dissipation, I don't see it on here, not that it really matters, but it ain't gonna be much. Here, we can pop a data sheet real quick, it'll probably tell us. Watts, 5 watts, steady state power dissipation, 5 watts. So we were trying to sync, say 7 volts at 22 amps, that's 400 and something watts, 400 is more than 5. That explains why it exploded. Okay, so now we know why it exploded. We installed the wrong diode. So, problem is I don't think I actually have the right diode, but I'm gonna go look. I do have one trick up my sleeve I might could pull. I developed a fan controller a long time ago that I never finished, and sad face, and it's got a hell of a flyback circuit, so I might be able to wire it up and let it deal with flyback for testing. But also, just a secondary little quick note, I accidentally turned that supply on again, off camera, by mistake. It didn't kill it though, and I quickly turned it off once I realized what I did. But it may have hurt that MOSFET. But it turned on once. Anyway, she's not dead, but it may be hurt now. But I'm gonna go try to find a diode, see if we can continue.